right, Cowboys Nation. We need to talk about the state of this team, because right now, things are starting to look more concerning than most people realize. Let's start at the top with CeeDee Lamb. He's dealing with a high ankle sprain, and that's never something you take lightly in football. Reports suggest he could be out anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And while the team is optimistic that it's not as severe as it could have been, the reality is that missing a player of his caliber can have a massive ripple effect across the entire offense. Lamb is not just a key receiver. He's a playmaker, a guy who draws attention from defenses and opens things up for everyone else. Losing him, even temporarily, changes the dynamics on the field and forces the Cowboys to adjust their game plan. You can see how even a seemingly small injury can quickly start to affect the bigger picture. Now, moving from offense to defense, this is where things get really alarming. The Cowboys' defensive unit is showing cracks that are deeper than anyone probably anticipated at the start of the season. After the Week 3 game against the Bears, it was already clear that there were serious issues. But watching the Giants put up numbers like that makes it painfully obvious that the problems run far beyond a single matchup. 37 points allowed, over 500 yards of total offense given up, and 4 touchdowns surrendered by a Giants team that hadn't exactly been dominating anyone in their first 2 games. It's alarming. To put in perspective, in their first 2 games combined, the Giants managed only 15 points and 1 touchdown. So when you see the kind of explosion against the Cowboys, it tells you everything you need to know. This defense is struggling in ways that are systemic, not situational. The defensive scheme seems to be breaking down at multiple levels. It's one thing to have a few bad plays, but when quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, Caleb Williams, and even opposing teams with mediocre offenses are suddenly having career nights, that's indicative of a much bigger problem. You can't chalk that up to bad luck or a few blown assignments. The issues start up front with the pass rush, or more accurately, the lack thereof. Pressure on the quarterback is minimal. The front 4 isn't generating enough consistent disruption, and that forces the secondary into impossible situations. Coverage assignments are often too soft, and when they do try to get aggressive, the execution is just not there. The overall defensive ecosystem is out of balance. Even the run defense, which has shown some signs of life, is being overshadowed by the catastrophe in the passing game. On paper, the Cowboys are middle of the pack when it comes to rushing yard allowed and yards per carry, but defensive statistics are meaningless if every pass is giving up nearly a first down per throw. The reality is that the Cowboys are still one of the worst passing defenses in the league, allowing nearly 9 yards per attempt and ranking near the bottom in EPA per play. Teams are finding explosive plays far too easily, and it doesn't matter how well you stop the run if the secondary is constantly being burned. The issues are compounded by personnel losses. Missing someone like Micah Parsons is obviously huge, but it goes deeper than that. Injuries, inconsistent play from linebackers and secondary players, and an overall lack of cohesion are making this defense look unrecognizable. The coaching staff is trying to implement schemes, but even the simplest concepts like zone coverages and standard alignments are failing to produce results. Teams are reading the defense too easily, exploiting the gaps, and driving right through the middle of everything. The so-called bend but don't break philosophy isn't working because the unit is getting bent in every single direction. When you watch the Cowboys on the field, it's not just that they're losing games, it's that they're being dominated in ways that are hard to overlook. On third downs, they're one of the worst units in football, allowing conversions at an alarming rate. Time to pressure is far too long, allowing quarterbacks to survey the field and pick apart coverage. Edge rushers aren't showing up consistently, and the few pressures they do generate are rarely impactful enough to change the play. Even the veterans who are supposed to anchor the defense are struggling, and the rookies are being thrown into situations that are far too complex given the talent surrounding them. This isn't just a temporary setback. It's the type of problem that creates a negative feedback loop across the team. The offense has to overcompensate. The special teams feel the pressure to score or contain, and the mental strain on players increases exponentially. You start seeing mistakes everywhere. Missed assignments, blown coverages, poor tackling, and questionable decisions under pressure. Each week, The defense is being forced to perform above its realistic capability, and the longer this trend continues, the harder it becomes to stop the bleeding. It's also important to note that this isn't just a statistical anomaly. These numbers, these bad performances, they're historic in a worrying way. The Cowboys are ranking near the bottom in nearly every major defensive category. Yards allowed per game, yards per play, EPA per play, third down defense, time of pressure, and overall points allowed. And these aren't just bad numbers. They're numbers that rival some of the worst defenses in franchise history. When you put that into context, it's clear that the team isn't simply having a rough start. They're facing structural problems that will take significant effort and perhaps personnel changes to fix. The domino effect is already visible on the field. Quarterbacks are playing confidently against the Cowboys, executing throws that would normally be contested, and wide receivers are exploiting gaps in coverage with alarming ease. The lack of pressure allows for more time to read defenses, leading to big plays, scoring drives, and ultimately, losses that could have been prevented. The defense's failure isn't an isolated issue. It's a factor that is actively dictating the pace and outcome of games. And while there's still time in the season to turn things around, the urgency cannot be overstated. Every practice, every game, every adjustment counts. Injuries like Lamb's only make it more challenging for the team to stay competitive, and the defensive woes threaten to undo the progress the offense might be able to make. It's a situation where one weak link is enough to compromise the whole system. And right now, the Cowboys have multiple weak links. Fans, analysts, and players alike are left asking the same question. How do you fix this? Is it coaching? Is it talent? Or is it a combination of both? The answer isn't simple, and the clock is ticking. The narrative around this team is shifting. The early optimism from preseason has faded, replaced with concern and scrutiny. Games that should be competitive are becoming lessons in exposure, showing where the team struggles most. And even the wins, like that thrilling overtime comeback against the Giants, are overshadowed by defensive performances that make it clear the unit is nowhere near ready to consistently compete with top-tier opponents. It's one thing to have a strong offense. It's another to have a defense that can actually hold opponents in check. Right now, the Cowboys are failing the latter, and until that changes, the season will continue to be a roller coaster of highs and lows. Now, as we keep peeling back the layers of this defense, you start to see how interconnected every single part of the team really is. Football isn't just a series of isolated plays. It's an ecosystem. The offense, the defense, special teams, they all rely on each other. And when one unit is underperforming, it has this cascading effect that just pulls everything else down with it. Take the secondary, for example. Normally, a team can survive a shaky pass rush if the corners and safeties are locking things down, making quarterbacks earn every yard. But the Cowboys aren't even close to that point right now. Quarterbacks are comfortable back there. They're seeing lanes open up, and they're picking apart coverages as if the defense isn't even present. And when you allow nearly 10 yards per throw on average, that's not just bad. It's catastrophic. It's the kind of statistic that turns close games into blowouts, week after week. Even the most basic principles of a bend-but-don't-break defense are falling apart. That philosophy relies on the front seven holding strong enough to limit explosive plays, forcing offenses to methodically march down the field. But when explosive plays are happening on almost every possession, and the front four isn't generating pressure, it doesn't matter how well your linebackers are reading the run or how disciplined your secondary is supposed to be. Everything falls apart because the initial foundation, the pressure on the quarterback, the edge containment, isn't there. And you can see it on every snap. Quarterbacks dropping back with time, receivers finding holes in zone coverage, and linebackers constantly reacting instead of dictating. The Cowboys aren't just losing games. They're losing control of the flow entirely. It gets even worse when you look at third down situations. This is where defenses prove their worth, and the Cowboys are failing miserably. Opposing teams are converting more than half of their third down attempts, which means the defense is giving opponents extra opportunities to score. Drives that should have ended are turning into extended possessions, and each of those possessions erodes both the scoreboard and the mental toughness of the defense. There's no reset, no breathing room. By the time the team finally gets a stop, or what should be a stop, the cumulative effect of giving up so many conversions has already taken a toll on the game. And make no mistake, this isn't an isolated issue against one or two teams. This is a pattern forming across the board. Personnel problems amplify all of these issues. Sure, losing someone like Micah Parsons is huge, but the reality is that the team is missing talent across every level of the defense. Linebackers are inconsistent, safeties are struggling to cover ground, and even the veteran defenders aren't providing the stability you would expect. The defensive line isn't collapsing pockets, the edge rushers aren't creating pressure, and the young players who are supposed to step up are being asked to perform beyond their experience. It's a mismatch between expectations and reality, and the scoreboard reflects it. Every incompletion, every tackle missed, every blown coverage compounds the sense that this defense simply cannot keep up with even moderately talented offenses. The knock-on effect is visible on the offensive side as well. When the defense can't make stops, the offense is forced into a position of having to score constantly just to stay in the game. That pressure can force mistakes, lead to conservative play calling, or push the quarterback to take risks that might not be necessary in a more balanced environment. And when you combine that with key injuries like CeeDee Lamb's, it becomes a perfect storm. The Cowboys aren't losing because the offense is failing. They're losing because the defense is setting an impossible standard that even a highly skilled offense can't consistently overcome. Every sack avoided by the opposition, every pass completed for a big gain, every third down conversion, they all feed into this downward spiral. Historically, teams in this position often struggle to regain control, and it's worth looking at comparisons to previous seasons to see the patterns emerging. The 2020 Cowboys come to mind, a team that started with high expectations but quickly ran into the same structural issues. Losses in primetime games, defensive lapses, and an inability to adjust on the fly created a scenario where the offense had to carry an enormous load. Even when they pulled out wins, the underlying problems were still there, hidden just enough to avoid immediate collapse, but visible enough for anyone paying attention to see that long-term success was improbable. Fast forward to today, and the parallels are hard to ignore. The Cowboys are staring down similar challenges. Early season losses in high-profile matchups, defensive units that can't hold up under pressure, and an offense that, while capable, is forced to overcompensate week after week. The defensive issues aren't just statistical, they're visual. On the field, you can see the lack of cohesion. Coverage assignments are missed, zones are blown, and gap discipline is inconsistent. Even the simplest plays are becoming problematic. Quarterbacks are exploiting mismatches and exploiting tendencies, which in turn puts more strain on every other player. This isn't a situation where one player being out of position can be excused. It's systemic. Everyone is affected. The line struggles to contain the edge. The linebackers are reactive instead of proactive, and the secondary is constantly being tested with too much space to cover. It's a chain reaction that feels impossible to stop in the moment, and when it's compounded over multiple games, it becomes a season-defining problem. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In a move that has sent shockwaves across the NFL landscape, the Dallas Cowboys appear to be setting the rumor mills ablaze. Sources close to the organization suggest that the Cowboys are eyeing a bold acquisition from across the Atlantic, none other than British defensive standout EFE OBADA, currently starring with the Washington Commanders. The whispers began circulating late yesterday, and fans on social media are already buzzing with speculation, debate, and wild excitement. OBADA, known for his relentless pass-rushing skills and physical presence on the defensive line, has steadily carved a name for himself in a league traditionally dominated by American talent. His journey from London to the NFL has been nothing short of inspirational, and now, according to insiders, Dallas may be ready to add his unique edge to a squad hungry for defensive dominance. If the deal goes through, It would mark one of the most surprising cross-team moves in recent NFL memory. The Cowboys, notorious for their high-profile maneuvers and flair for drama, have remained tight-lipped on any official statements. Yet the sheer volume of chatter from credible sources cannot be ignored. Analysts are already speculating about how OBADA's skill set could fit within Dallas' defensive schemes. Could his speed and agility on the line be the missing puzzle piece for a team eager to reclaim its status as a defensive powerhouse? The potential implications have pundits and fans alike imagining a new era for the storied franchise. Meanwhile, Commanders supporters are in a state of disbelief, with some questioning whether their star has been lured by Dallas' storied legacy and high-stakes ambitions. The NFL community, always hungry for drama, is watching closely, knowing that the ripple effects of such a transfer could redefine rivalries and shake up the league's balance. While official confirmation is nowhere in sight, the rumor itself has already ignited a frenzy. Cowboys fans are dreaming of a British-born defensive hero donning the iconic star, while opponents brace for a potential seismic shift in the NFC landscape. If the whispers turn into reality, EFE OBADA's journey from London to Washington to Dallas could become one of the most talked-about sagas in NFL history, blending international flair with American football drama in a story that feels almost too wild to be true. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.